Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. And with us, speak up, stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us, speak up, stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
Open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
Covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And welcome. Joining me on the program today is my co-host Vladimir Aguilar, our favorite all-time Kentucky Cuban conservative. Vlad is a Cuban immigrant and a survivor of Castro's communism. Yep. He's a frequent guest and guest host on Kentucky's Voice. He's also chairman of the Cuban American Conservative Coalition and host of the Cuban Show, which you can catch Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on the Cuban Show YouTube channel. And you can watch it even if you don't know Spanish.
Yes.
English subtitles are provided, and so you don't even have to worry about that. But welcome, Vladimir. Great to have you with us today. You're a frequent guest here, and we consider you a good friend and of this show and of this project.
Good morning, Jim. I like your shirt.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're stepping it up a notch here today. We want to hear from you on all the things we talk about today, and this is a jam-packed show. 502-571-0970. You can partner with us on there as well. Support this work. It's a listener-supported effort, and we want everyone to join us and be Kentucky's voice. You know, I am not Kentucky's voice. You are not. Together, we are Kentucky's voice.
You want to hear something crazy?
Always.
Back in the time in Cuba, just for wearing a shirt or something with the American flag, you can go to jail.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Well, hey, Castro, come and get me if you want to. Here I am. Come if you think you can accomplish that. Otherwise, stay right where you are. We're doing fine. Dominating news on the political front today, Dick Cheney, who served 2 terms as the nation's vice president. Of course, he was vice president for George W. Bush during a critical time in America's history, 9/11. He was also a congressman. He was a former defense secretary. He was a former White House chief of staff. He died last night at the age of 84. After a battle with pneumonia and heart complications. But, you know, he'd had heart problems for several decades. It's amazing that he was 84 years old. Apparently, he turned things around there to live a long life. He was surrounded by his family, including Liz Cheney last night, who's also been, like her father, a lightning rod for true conservatives and MAGA conservatives. Dick Cheney was the ultimate Washington insider, and he was controversial to the end. Vladimir, last September, he said he was going to vote for Kamala Harris. Remember that?
Yes.
And Cheney was loved by some conservatives, reviled by others. Primarily MAGA conservatives did not have much use for him at all in the political realm. But he was the brains behind our post-9/11 hammer blow to terrorism. He helped topple the Taliban in Afghanistan. He hunted Saddam Hussein in Iraq. He was rebuilding our military might. I think our enemies knew maybe some things about him and that perhaps we've forgotten. They haven't forgotten. Yeah. But he also had a lot of demons. His ties to Halliburton. He raked in millions before he came to the White House from Halliburton. He pushed some questionable intelligence on Iraq's WMDs that cost us trillions of dollars and many American lives. Some would say that they believe to this day that Saddam Hussein did have weapons of mass destruction, and of course he did use some chemical weapons. So there's an argument to be made there, but. And he also was a supporter of enhanced interrogation,
yes.
Better known as waterboarding and wiretaps. Cheney owned the shadow of power, no apologies, as one commentator put it. And the MAGA wing, as I said, torching him online for going rogue, criticizing Trump, even endorsing Kamala Harris in 2024. One ex-post from a Kentucky firebrand called him the original deep stater, while a Fox contributor mourned him as the VP who made the Oval Office roar. My take, let's honor the service and learn from the scars.
Yes.
Yesterday, we mentioned on this program that former Kentucky Governor Martha Lane Collins, the first female to hold that office, was a Democrat, but we praised her for her years of service to the Commonwealth, including bringing Toyota here. So let's honor the service. It doesn't mean we have to agree with all the politics, but let's honor their service and learn from their scars.
Because we got God in our hearts.
That's right.
So,
coming up on today's show, it's election day in some parts of the country. What happens if the left gets its way on the government shutdown? And then a call for Charlie Kirk statutes as monuments to free speech, why it should happen in Kentucky as well. That's all coming up on Kentucky's Voice. Stay with us.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Thanks for staying with us here on this Tuesday edition of Kentucky's Voice. We're here each weekday, 11 to noon. You can also catch this program on Channel 21, WBNA, in Louisville, right here in Louisville, Kentucky, at 12:30, 4, and 8 p.m. each day. Also, you can catch this live streaming across social media platforms. And as I said, right here live on the radio, 970 a.m. WGTK. Thanks for making this part of your day. We want to hear from you today, 502-571-0970. You can let us know what you think about what we're talking about today. If you have some opinions, we'd like to hear them. And also, we'd like to have your support. Become a supporter of Kentucky's Voice. It is a conservative, common sense, Christian-based media outlet that's pushing back against the corporate legacy media. This is your chance. If we don't have your help, we can't do this. It takes all of us.
I'm the only one in Kentucky.
It's the only one.
The only one.
That's
so
right.
We
So
need to,
502-571-0970. There may not be elections in Kentucky today, but there are some key elections in other states. And while those that happen in our state certainly have the biggest impact on us here, it doesn't mean that we can stick our collective heads in the sand and ignore what's happening in other states like Virginia, like New Jersey, where there are important governor's races going on, and certainly in New York City, which is likely to have a socialist Muslim mayor by the time this day is over with. Zohran Mamdani, after the votes are tallied today, is likely to be the mayor. We'll talk about that race in just a moment. But first, in the Garden State, Jack Ciattarelli, a battle-tested Republican businessman and former assemblyman who's no stranger to this rodeo after coming close to becoming governor in 2021, is locked in a nail-biter against Democrat Mikey Sherrill, the establishment congresswoman who is an ex-Navy pilot who's trying to extend Governor Phil Murphy's unpopular reign, which has featured, as we have heard, high property taxes, economic woes, the economic situation in New Jersey, crushing families there. Polls show that race is in a dead heat. Ciattarelli is surging with working-class men and MAGA supporters. Sherrill's leaning on Obama and out-of-state Democratic governors to prop up her flagging campaign. A GOP win here would shatter the blue wall and send a thunderclap to D.C. during this midterm. Over in Virginia, the red wave, I don't know. I don't think the chances are real great, but let's hope that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, that trailblazing Jamaican-American powerhouse who has been the lieutenant governor to Governor Glenn Youngkin and who is a Marine veteran, can succeed Youngkin. The polls aren't looking good. She's facing off against Abigail Spanberger, the flip-flopping ex-spy turned congresswoman who's all in on the radical left's open borders and abortion extremism. Turnout's going to be everything in those races. We'll see what happens. And I think what happens there is going to send some messages about what we could expect in the midterms. But in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is riding a wave of support, primarily because of backing from young people and the usual suspects on the far left. Let's go to Zach Westmaler of the Reason Foundation for his perspective on what's happening with this election and Mamdani in New York City. Go ahead, Dan.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich.
In some ways, Mamdani, who's a self-proclaimed socialist, doesn't sound that different from other progressive Democrats.
We will take on corporate landlords and cap unfair rent increases.
It's time to stop protecting billionaires.
Every single thing he says, even right down to, that there shouldn't be any billionaires, is merely an extension of what Elizabeth Warren has said.
We need universal child care in this country.
What Bernie Sanders has said.
It's insane and absurd. You got people with hundreds of billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars. The system cannot afford them.
He is radical for the Democratic Party, but he's also just being more honest about the policies that a particular wing of the Democratic Party have pushed for a long time.
Why do you think this particular race has become a countrywide story?
Because it's a referendum on where our party goes.
Mamdani isn't the type of socialist who thinks the U.S. should just be a little more like Denmark. He's a seize the means of production kind of guy.
It is critical for us to both meet people where they're at and to also organize for what is correct and for what is right. If we're talking about the cancellation of student debt, if we're talking about Medicare for all, these are issues which have the groundswell of popular support across this country. But then there are also other issues that we firmly believe in, whether it's BDS, right? Or whether it's the end goal of seizing the means of production, where we do not have the same level of support at this very moment. And what I want to say is that it is critical that we do not leave any one issue for the other, that we do not meet a moment and only look at what people are ready for, but that we are doing both of these things in tandem. We have to continue to elect more socialists, and we have to ensure that we are unapologetic about our socialism.
Mamdani's ambition is nothing less than leading the vanguard of the new American socialist movement. His message is resonating with young voters in particular, who turned out in record numbers for Mamdani in the Democratic primary.
I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and
a Muslim mayor, Democratic mayor in New York City, Vlad Aguilar, who is actually talking about seizing the means of production. In the past, the left wing has said, hey, we're going to do what we think we can get right now. We're not going to talk about the things that normally have scared Americans away from voting for a socialist. But now we hear that being talked about. Vlad, socialism was tried. It failed. It's failed repeatedly. It failed repeatedly in the 20th century. It racked up a death toll of at least 100 million lives. Millions more still live under socialism's long, dark shadow in places like Cuba, like North Korea, like Venezuela. Why does the socialist movement never seem to die? And I think a question, too, is why are young people attracted to this? Is it because they haven't experienced that? They haven't really seen the impact of socialism. Yeah. They haven't seen what it's done in history.
Well, as a victim of socialism by myself.
And from Cuba, right?
From Cuba, yeah. I can say Churchill, Winston Churchill, he say is the creed of the ignorance and, all of that.
Yeah.
And the thing is with socialism, it's about keeping the poor, but with hope. Because if you get people out of poverty or
But in those socialist countries, there's always a handful of people at the top who are rich, who in it for themselves.
Of course. Like when you see AOC claiming we need to end the rich people. Well, you're rich. Show me your bank account. Well, you're one of them now.
That's right. Have you got that cartoon I sent you, Dan? Put that up. That's a great point. It's a great time to do that.
That's basically the point of this. People who promise get people out of poverty, but at the end of the day, the only thing they will do is get rich by themselves.
Yeah. Now look at that right there. No kings, they said, right?
Yeah.
And yet this cartoon has them king crowned. But look at the estimated net worth, and look at how old they are.
And let's be clear about this. These people make that money going into the politics. Because they say like, well, Trump is billionaire. Well, he made his own money out of politics, and then he jumped on the politics, which is totally different.
Right.
And that's basically the
with young people though, and Mamdani's campaign has largely been fueled by young people and then by radical left-wing groups.
Of course, it's not even about Mamdani by himself. It's the I'll say the structure behind him. It's like a lot of money, is a lot of like interest from the
well, and he's young himself. He's in his 30s. And so there, and isn't that the case with socialism? I mean, when you look at free market capitalism, it can be messy if you look at it on paper, right? As we say,
Jim, trust me.
But socialism is all figured out. Right?
When we were young,
but the consequences.
Yeah, when we were young, we commit so many mistakes.
Well, you're still young, but yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I was just saying. Yeah.
I'm past 40 now, so So when we were young, like I'll say on the 20s. We make so many mistakes in life, and this is basically the people, and that's why I jump all the time on the parenting, like educate your child.
But the consequences here are high. The stakes are high because this cannot be a learning experience and not affect and hurt a lot of people in New York City and send the wrong messages across the country.
There is a I'll say like a long time job working with those people since they were on the schools, like they start on the kindergarten or things like that with the small stuff, and little by little they trying to increase that dose. And then when you get to the college,
Well, Karl Marx and the founders of socialism were famous for saying if we can get a hold of the education system, and that's why it's so important that we have control over the curriculum.
Anthony Gramsci, he was the founder of that ideas, like you need to take over the educational system. And then you got Anton Makarenko, which was like a teacher back in that time. He implemented that system on the Soviet Union and all of those things.
And that's why our young people need to be taught the truth about American history and need to be taught about the greatness of our country, the exceptionalism of our country, what makes our country unique, what makes us different than any other country in the world, and why have so many nations tried to emulate what we're doing? Why is it we have to put up walls to keep people out, whereas other nations like you came from have built structures to keep people there under the threat of death and destruction? We're talking about the potential likely election of a Muslim socialist, democratic socialist. He calls himself a democratic socialist. It's socialism in New York City, and perhaps some of the unintended consequences that could come about from that. We're going to continue that discussion in the next segment. We're going to talk about his some comments you have, Vladimir, about his relationship with Cuba. Coming up on the next segment on Kentucky's Voice. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Are you ready to stand for truth? Kentucky is at a crossroads, and we need voices that won't back down. This is your moment to rise, speak up, and be part of a movement that's changing the narrative in the Commonwealth. Kentucky's Voice is calling on bold citizen journalists, fearless editors, and those unafraid to speak truth in the public square. Volunteer, intern, contribute. Scan the QR code or visit kyvoice.org to join the fight. This is more than media. This is your moment. You are Kentucky's voice.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice here on this Tuesday edition. Thanks for joining us. It's Election Day in parts of the country, and we're talking about the potential impact that an election of a Democratic socialist who's also a Muslim, who's also in his 30s and knows nothing about the consequences of communism and socialism, getting elected to America's largest city. What could happen there? But first, I want to ask you, who's ready to stretch that Christmas budget and still give great gifts? Right now, at shoppingkentuckiana.com, you can grab half-price gift certificates to some of your favorite local spots like Malibu Jack's Parlor Pizza and 5 Iron Golf Louisville. Imagine giving someone a $100 gift card, but only paying $50 or a $40 card for just $20. That's the kind of Christmas math everyone loves. These are perfect for stocking stuffers, family fun, or even a little treat for yourself. But don't wait. The best deals always disappear fast. Go to shoppingkentuckiana.com and grab your half-price Christmas deals before they're gone. And even if you went to Kentucky Public Education schools, you can figure out the math on that. You can get $40 for $20.
We hope so.
Can figure that out. Yes. 502-571-0970 is our our text line today here. And also you can support the program. And one of the reasons you need to is because we're going to tell you the truth about these issues, about guys like Zohran Mamdani, who's going to be elected in New York City as the mayor. And I want to encourage you to go to the Reason Foundation and listen to this entire piece. It's about 20 minutes. But I want you to hear a little more of their perspective on Mamdani's potential election and how this has to do with not just economics here. Listen to this clip.
Was why does socialism persist? Crystal's answer was that the enemy of liberal capitalism today is not so much socialism as nihilism. For Crystal, the fading relevance of organized religion in liberal capitalist societies left too many people with a God-shaped hole to fill. When there's no promise of a cosmic justice in the afterlife that will right life's inevitable wrongs, we're more prone to seek justice through politics. Socialism exploits our yearning for cosmic justice.
Isn't that interesting, Vladimir Aguilar, that this also has to do with spiritual issues and the lack of religion. You know, we've seen kind of a period here in American history where young people have, previous generations, current generations, have quit attending church, have quit worshiping, have quit, and organized religion, of course, has declined. And the point they're making is that there's going to be a vacuum there. That's the point. There's going to be a spiritual vacuum, and if people perceive injustice, they're going to look for something that will give them that.
Of course, and that's basically what communists does all the time. They take over the faith.
And that's the first thing they do, right? The education system and the churches and religion. Talk about your perspective on this and a clip you have here.
Back in Cuba, when Castro took in power in 1959, the first thing he did, it was like, throwing away a bunch of priors and, like nuns and all of that. And then he said like basically the revolution, it was like atheist, like, there's not God on Cuba back in that time. Even like Christmas, it was like forbidden.
Well, set up this clip that you have also that you sent Dan here for. Set this up for us. Your perspective on
basically, like I said before, it's not even Mamdani by himself. It's the structure he got behind him, and of course Cuba, like always. And that's what we're trying to warn the American people. Like, guys, Cuba is the worst enemy of the United States, 90 miles away from this country. And they got their hands everywhere, even on the State Department. Someone just on Twitter find out about that, and he made a whole exposure of that. And Mamdani, he has a meeting with the Cuban intelligence agent last year. But then you got other people.
So he met with them.
Yeah. I did a whole show about that. It's on the YouTube channel. If you go, it was last week. And I got some pictures also that they can probably put in here. And the New York Post, they talk about that. And basically what's happening here, it's Mamdani they have their contacts with Cuba because the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, whatever they call themselves, they are traveling to Cuba to indoctrinate those kids. And then, of course, when they coming back to the America, they are spreading that cancer, the communist cancer. And the thing is, with Mandani, when he went on a radio show, or probably like a podcast show with Jorge Ramos, the journalist, he asked by Diaz-Canel, what do you think about Diaz-Canel, the Cuban dictator? Well, Mandani, he sorted that question really, vague, and then he don't want to claim the guy a dictator.
Doesn't that tell you a lot, right?
Of course,
there?
of course.
If he can't say this guy's a dictator.
Let's remember back in July 2021, Diaz-Canel gave the order to kill Cubans on the streets just because they were shouting freedom. Let's remember that.
Because they were
just asking for freedom, And then, of course.
And isn't that interesting, though? Let's stop. We have all these protesters in America, right? They're these no kings. What the folks don't seem to know, and of course, a lot of young people who have not seen the effects of socialism, a lot of them don't realize that they couldn't have a rally like that in Cuba. We got just this clip.
Let's see the clip when they ask him about Diaz-Canel and he tried to sort.
All right, let's do
question.
that.
Politically, I think I have to ask you this question. Just going back to socialismo, do you think that Miguel Diaz-Canel in Cuba is a dictator?
I haven't thought much about Miguel Diaz, I'll be honest with you. I think mostly about these 5 boroughs and how we can actually deliver affordability for New Yorkers.
But do you think Nicolás Maduro is a dictator in Venezuela?
I think he has done many a horrible thing.
But again, do you think it's important that you say that they are dictators and that people understand here in New York that you are not aligned with them?
I think it's clear and it's important for me to showcase how this is a vision for the people of the city. And as you said, it is in stark contrast to the experiences that many others have had. And I think when I hear from a number of Venezuelan New Yorkers about what drove them to come to this city, the conditions that they had to live through, I understand their skepticism. I understand their caution. And yet I have found in them an understanding that my vision is one that is distinct from that experience.
Yeah, but I wonder if you're reluctant to call them dictators in Cuba and Venezuela.
I'm not reluctant. I just haven't thought about them that often. I'll be honest with you. I think that Maduro's government is one of repression. There's no question about it. And I think
it's in Cuba.
Sorry?
And also it's happening in Cuba since 1959.
And I think that the repression that, whether we're speaking about Cuban New Yorkers or Venezuelan New Yorkers, that they have had to live through is a repression that stands in a clear contrast from what our vision is here.
Yeah, he just
total hypocrisy.
It's totally and for him to say he hadn't thought much about this when he had actually met with these folks, right? And knew it's just,
and that's basically why he cannot mention nothing about Diaz-Canel, because I'm pretty sure the Cuban intelligence has something on him, and of course this guy, the Cuban agent who met with him, well, he is the ambassador, official ambassador to the United Nations from Cuba here in America. But that's just a coverage. We all know those people are intelligence agents.
Yeah, and let's just remind everyone of unintended consequences.
Yes.
Socialism, it has a deceptive sound to it. It has a deceptive ring of everyone equal. But every time in history, a government has tried to make everyone equal. They've done it. They've only been able to do that at the end of a gun. Right, by force.
Well,
right?
and make no mistake,
disaster.
They've been making people equal, like poor.
Equal poor, yeah.
Equally poor.
And I think about Cambodia, for example, in the 1970s. Yes. They were going to make everybody equal, and 2 million people died. There were a few people at the top who benefited. Your Bernie Sanders, your AOC, let's just say it the way it is, your Zoran Mamdani, these guys, they're going to benefit from this. So they're motivated, but they also may not even understand the unintended consequences. We should learn from history. Anyhow, we'll see what happens in this election. Talk about it tomorrow on this program. But coming up, what happens if the left gets their way in the government shutdown? Jim Waters and Vladimir Aguilar on Kentucky's Voice. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Thanks for staying with us today here on Election Day in some parts of the country. Good discussion there about Zoran Mamdani with my co-host, Vladimir Aguilar, who's also the host of The Cuban Show. And he does a lot of things. He's a busy guy, but we appreciate him being with us. And we appreciate you joining us today. And you can weigh in on this conversation at 502-571-0970. Just shoot us a text on that number, 502-571-0970. You can join the conversation there. You can also support this program. And I just want to say I'm excited about going full blast here with Kentucky's Voice and with Word Media. I spent 22 years, until just a couple of weeks ago, I spent 22 years at the Bluegrass Institute for Public Policy Solutions here, advancing free market solutions to Kentucky's greatest challenges here. And I plan to continue to work on those issues. So just a message to all the teachers union folks out there and all the bureaucrats who were hoping maybe I had gone away. I'm about to become your worst nightmare, because I'm going to be on here a whole lot more talking about things that you're not going to want me to talk about, but that the people of Kentucky need to hear and need to know. That's why we need this show.
If they get mad just because you show up, let's show up. That's it.
Just show up. Well, when are the leftist Democrats going to show up and get real? That's what I want to know. Yes. So I want to talk for a moment, Vladimir, about developments surrounding this big government shutdown. And I think they illustrate as much as anything why conservative media outlets like Kentucky's Voice are needed here. You know, big media will not give the American people the correct and full information about the Schumer shakedown.
Of course not.
And of the government. Therefore, it's up to us. We must do it, as we always have had to throughout our history. It's up to us to give the truth to the American people, and that's why I love what we're doing here, because this is an opportunity to give you out there to the truth about what's happening. So just call me today. You like my shirt? Just call me the modern day Paul Revere today. We're going to spread the message. The leftist Democrats have shut down the government. Yes, that's what I said. The leftist Democrats have shut down the government because President Trump and because most of the congressional Republicans refuse to massively grow government. Now, period. End of story. I will say, though, Republicans aren't saints when it comes to government spending. I understand that. But in the context of this fight, it is big government wanting to grow the size and cost of government beyond even what Republicans want to. And Republicans are trying to hold the line somewhat on spending cuts, on border security. And I want to say this to our conservative Republican friends in Washington: you must not fold. If the conservatives fold and you let the Democrats dictate the terms, the fallout, I think, will be catastrophic for America's economy and for its health care, as healthcare has become kind of the centerpiece of the leftist shutdown of the government, especially continuing the subsidies for Obamacare. And by the way, let that be a lesson to all. No government program ever goes away once it's started.
Of course
We
not.
heard that. Well, this is going to be temporary. The subsidies for Obamacare during the COVID shutdown, they're going to be temporary. And here we've got Democrats fighting to continue and even increasing some of that spending. So I want to give you 4 reasons right now why I think that conservatives must not cave to government, to Democrats regarding this government shutdown. First of all, doing so, as we said, would add trillions of dollars of debt on the back of taxpayers for generations to come. Democrats want unchecked spending. This could explode the national debt. We're talking here about reinstating bloated, big-time omnibus bills packed with pork barrel projects, green energy subsidies, expanded welfare programs without offsets. The Congressional Budget Office already projects that without reforms, deficits will hit $2 trillion annually by 2030. If Democrats ram through their full agenda, think $5 trillion plus in new climate and social spending over a decade, as proposed in the past Build Back Better iterations, better being certainly not happening that way in terms of our economy. Vladimir Aguilar, on this first point, are you in agreement that doing so, caving to the Democrats, would add trillions of dollars on the debt of the backs of taxpayers for generations to come?
Of course. And like I say all the time, like nothing in life is free. Someone else is paying for it. I don't want to pay for other people's
And
stuff.
I think that this is one reason why, and I have this theory, one reason why many of our younger Americans now are turning to conservatism and becoming more conservative. They see what's happening. They're
Back
not
in
blind.
the before Trump administration, many people of the Black American community, they understood, like, no, I don't want to live under like the social welfare. I
And-
want to work by myself and
if
have
the-
like
right,
a better life.
And if they work, they know they're going to be the ones
Yes.
paying for that.
Yes.
Reason number 2, caving to big government, Democrats would provide health care for illegal aliens. Democrats want to extend taxpayer-funded health care to millions of illegal immigrants. Why, Vladimir? Because they see what? A potential future voting bloc.
Of course. That's the like I say, they trying to sell you a hope. Okay, if you vote for, if you I'll say advocate for me, I'll give you this free stuff, and then in the future I can probably do something nice for you, like giving you like a immigration status. But remember, we got DACA, we got the Dreamers, we got all of that, and trust me, there's a lot of people still waiting for Obama and the Democrats to be legalized in this country.
And we're talking about 11 to 12 million possibly here that would get these premium subsidies. Programs like emergency Medicaid already are costing us billions of dollars annually for non-citizens. Full inclusion of illegal aliens could add 20 to 50 billion dollars per year, according to the Federation for American Immigration Reform. This is not, and let's not, and so many times the argument comes up about being compassionate, but this isn't about compassion. This is about incentivizing more illegal activity. This will
of course not.
incentivize more
Yeah,
illegal
like-
border crossings. It's going to strain our resources. It's going to divert funds from American citizens, from low-income families who wait longer for care, who really should get this care.
Jim, let's go back to the common sense for 1 second.
Common sense.
You know, common sense. Who's the person who's willing to maintain 20 people out of their pockets? You cannot. you can just not doing it.
That's
it's
right.
the same thing. Like we, the taxpayers, we cannot afford this.
That's right. The third reason we should not cave to Democrats is this would greatly increase the cost of health care for all Americans. As you said, nothing is free. Health care is certainly
You want to
not
see my
free.
premium, how much increase?
And it's going to skyrocket. Premiums are going to skyrocket. The costs for everyone else are going to go up. Expanding coverage of Obamacare to non-citizens without new revenue floods the system, increases uncompensated care and provider reimbursements. Look at the data. The Obamacare's Medicaid expansion alone raised private insurance premiums by 5 to 10% in states that expanded, Kentucky being one of those. We expanded. Now we have 1 in 3 people here on Medicaid in Kentucky. That wasn't what Medicaid was meant to be. That wasn't the purpose of it.
Yeah, let's help the people who really need it, because even the people, I have so many friends that they really need the Medicaid and they haven't been able to get it, and that's the people who really need to get scared of. And that's the people who pay taxes. That's the people who had work in this country for like more than 10 years.
And maybe they're in between jobs, or maybe, but it's supposed to be temporary.
Yeah,
right.
temporary.
It's supposed to not. This never was supposed to be a long-term program, and yet we
like myself when I got here, I got help like 8 months with the Medicaid. You know, but
which you came
that's
legally. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. 10 years ago, I stopped getting Medicaid and I start paying my taxes. And of course, that will try to help the other people behind me. But you cannot live under the Medicaid just because you want like free stuff. And if you're healthy, you can work and you can make your life successful. Go out there and get a job.
I'm all for a safety net. I'm all for that, for those who really need it.
Here we go.
But it should not be permanent. It should be temporary, and it should be available for those truly in need. The ironic thing is, the more we've expanded the eligibility for these programs, the decline, the lesser the care has been, the worse the care has been, the longer the wait times, and premiums have jumped. The Center for Health and Economy says that adding millions more to subsidized pools dilutes the risk pools, forcing insurers to hike rates potentially 15 to 25%. How many of you out there can afford a 15 to 25% increase in your already skyrocketing premiums? Overall healthcare spending, by the way, already 18% of our GDP in America. It's going to bloom further. It's going to hit families with higher deductibles, higher copays, more taxes to fund it all. It's a vicious cycle. More mandates, less competition. Everyday Americans paying the price at the doctor's office.
And I feel that's targeted to destroy the medium class. You know,
and it's also meant to push us toward a socialized, more of a socialized healthcare system, a single payer system. Fourth reason why conservatives should not cave to Dems is it will cause the quick return of high inflation to America, pouring trillions into the economy without productivity gains. You know, it's one thing if we produce more. It's one thing if our tax base grows. That means more revenue from a growing economy. But just pouring trillions of dollars into the economy without productivity gains, spending more will push inflation. And remember, during the Biden years, it was pushed up over 9%. Economists like those of the Hoover Institution link $4 trillion plus in COVID era spending to 70 to 80% of that inflation surge. So we heard about states getting all these dollars back, like Kentucky, and more spending to help people in need. But all that spending has a price. It has a cost. And Democrats want unfettered borrowing for entitlements. They want unfettered spending on subsidies. That will increase the money supply. It will cause great deficits. It will cause higher inflation to come back to 5 to 7% is what experts are predicting.
And trust me, whatever we went through with the COVID era, it was just a trial.
Yeah.
It can get worse than that.
That's right. We're talking about groceries maybe going up 20 to 30%, gas and housing being unaffordable. It's not transient. It's pain. It's pain. Bottom line, caving means mortgaging our future, rewarding lawlessness, pricing out healthcare, torching the economy with inflation. Conservatives must stand firm, Vladimir Aguilar. America cannot afford the spending.
Like Trump said, America will never be socialist.
That's right.
Remember
well,
that.
As
and
long
we're
as
going
he's
to
in
fight
there,
for it.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And we're going to fight to keep the memory of Charlie Kirk alive. We're going to talk coming up about should there be statues of Charlie Kirk on our campuses. And one governor's already proposing that. Talk about that coming up in the next segment of Kentucky's Voice, our final segment today. Stay with us.
Kentucky's Voice is your home for real news, real people, and real answers. But we can't do it without you. Your financial support helps us bring truth to the forefront, hold leaders accountable, and give a voice to the people of the Commonwealth. Join the fight today. Give online at kyvoice.org or text KYVoice to 53555. Every gift makes a difference. Stand with us, speak up, stay strong. You are Kentucky's voice.
kyvoice.org.
Thanks for staying with us today here on Kentucky's Voice. You can hear us 11 to noon each weekday, Monday through Friday. And I'm only one of the hosts. We've got several hosts that fill in here and step in and do this. Not really fill in. They've got ongoing spots with us. And Vladimir Aguilar is my favorite co-host. He's certainly my favorite Cuban conservative here in the great city of Louisville. And thanks for joining me today here on the program, Vladimir. And thank you all for making this possible. Kentucky's Voice, 502-571-0970. We want to hear from you. And I'm going to go back and read a text we got yesterday about yesterday's program in just a moment. But first, I want to ask you, you know what everyone actually wants for Christmas, Vladimir? Something they'll use and something they enjoy.
Yeah.
That's what makes shopping Kentuckiana.com such a hit. You can grab a half-price gift certificate to restaurants, entertainment spots, and attractions all over Kentuckiana. Think Malibu Jack's, Parlor Pizza, Five Iron Golf Louisville, and tons more. Every deal is half off, which means you could double the fun without doubling the cost. Give them as gifts or use them for holiday outings with family and friends. Head to shoppingkentuckiana.com and make your Christmas shopping simple, local, and full of savings, just like our government should do, full of savings. And I will give our state legislators a shout out for saving and building up our savings account here. I take every opportunity to do that in hopes that that will continue. Well, on yesterday's show with Dr. Lance Pearson, we talked a lot about artificial intelligence and the impact it's going to have on several areas of our society, including education. And there was some talk about could this help teachers and how AI could be helpful to teachers and in the educating of our students. And we got this response on our text line at 502-571-0970. Teachers will not promote AI when they figure it will replace their jobs. Just more of our basic human skills of relating to other humans disappearing. So we're going to have artificial intelligence tell our children how to think, how to relate with other humans. Sounds fishy to me. He says on the medical side, more jobs will be replaced. It will completely destroy our working future, more unemployment, more people begging for socialism just to eat, and quit thinking opportunities and thinking of our future. I don't necessarily agree with this. I think, we heard this kind of thing when the internet came along. We've heard it. Yeah. We heard it when Henry Ford developed the Model T Ford. I mean, we were moving from one kind of transportation to another.
The thing is, with the artificial intelligence, you need intelligence behind that. So, like common sense. Even if people try to...
No matter what, that's going to be the case. Because even with Grok or Chat GPT or whatever, it's the prompts. It's what you put in there that you're gonna hear about, and you have to check it out.
I'm not a big fan of that because I have some friends like you should go this way and try to use more like Chat GPT, whatever. I'm like, guys, I'm still having a brain with some ideas. I want to express by myself.
But I want to get to this point real quickly about the human interaction. I think that the use of AI is going to make that even more important, and that will become an area where teachers and doctors, for example, we talked about yesterday about how AI could actually provide better a diagnosis.
Don't get me wrong.
Doctors can.
I understand,
but that's never going to replace the bedside.
It's
conversations.
Like I use artificial intelligence. Like right now, when I do my YouTube thumbnails, I'm using that tool, but I have to put right there the right prompt to tell them, like, I want this. I don't want nothing else.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see how that works out. But I think that's a little. I think that's a little backward looking, that comment, and because I think it's going to depend on how, of course, we use it, but also AI is never going to replace the human interaction.
No,
that's the point I think that I want to make. Well, speaking of interaction, should college campuses erect a statue to Charlie Kirk? The other night, the LSU, Louisiana State University, was the site of about a week ago of a big turning point rally, and here's some sound from that. So this is from Vladimir. This is from a college campus in Louisiana with a turning point rally there. Of course, Turning Point being the organization that Charlie Kirk founded. And so after this, Governor Landry, who is the conservative governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, he's challenged the LSU Board of Supervisors to find a spot on campus for a statue honoring conservative activist Charlie Kirk, who, of course, was tragically assassinated on September 10th while speaking at a university at Utah Valley University. And this was after that throng that we saw that turned out for that rally. Not everyone's on board with the free speech framing of this, however, but let's hear what Landry had to say about why he wants a statue of Charlie Kirk on the campus.
Hey, everyone. Governor Jeff Landry here tonight, wanting to thank the entire Turning Point family, because tonight, unbelievable. Over 1,500 people came to listen to Turning Point USA. Thank you. Big shout out to LSU Turning Point. And so we're here on campus next to Mike the Tiger, and we're going to put a challenge out to the LSU Board of Supervisors to find a place to put a statue of Charlie Kirk to defend the freedom of speech on college campuses. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can be the first campus to do it.
So over at left-wing MSNBC, an opinion piece titled Louisiana Governor Pretends an LSU Charlie Kirk statue would be about free speech. They call it a cynical power play. The writer argues it's less about principle and more about Governor Landry flexing political muscle, comparing it to Confederate monuments erected not where battles were fought, but where certain folks wanted to remind everyone who was in charge. This is the kind of nonsense from the left of a conservative political activist who is the emblem of free speech for young people in America today, who didn't really know who Dr. King was, for example, Dr. Martin Luther King. Yeah. But first of all, comparing this to those who would defend Confederacy, the Confederacy, somehow trying to make that connection is just weird, I think.
Because they always trying to project in others what they are. You know, this is what they have in their minds, and they will try to project that on their enemies.
But let's take the logic of this for a second. And the piece talked about how that there was no evidence that Charlie Kirk had ever come to Louisiana and spoken at Louisiana State University, and therefore there shouldn't be a statue there because of that, and that doing so is just a political statement. But, you know, I got to thinking, what if the same response had been given to Dr. Martin Luther King, to the establishment of statues and streets and bridges and roads and buildings? We don't hear that from him. He didn't speak in every place that we have a Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. And but we rightly recognize his courage to stand up and express his views, even if you didn't agree with everything he said, even if you don't agree with everything Charlie Kirk said. It's not about that. It's about recognizing the importance of freedom of speech.
And especially on campuses where he fought against the censorship and all the socialism and all the communism, where people were trying to find a way to make their voice heard in the community, especially on the campuses where they get all the time threatened because their opinions.
Yeah, and this piece acts like this piece of MSNBC. Well, the writer seems to believe that monuments to free speech are only valid also if the left gives the thumbs up, which is so illogical in this conversation because that's not how free speech works, and that's certainly not how Charlie Kirk approached it. He invited the opposition to come. He invited dialogue and debate, but that's an echo. What they're wanting is an echo chamber. If we only honor the speakers we like, we agree with, then how is that defending the principle of free speech? We're just picking team captains. That's all.
Of course, it's only free speech when it's their opinions. When other people's opinion goes up, they like, nope, you cannot say that, you cannot think about it, and you cannot even express yourself, because then you are threatening me with your opinions, you know.
Yeah, you know, and if we only memorialize the voices that make us comfortable or that we agree with, then we've already lost it, you know. And so Charlie Kirk was a fighter in the arena of ideas. Love him, disagree with him. You cannot deny the impact he had on our young people. He had a tremendous impact, and recognizing that in and of itself is important in America.
Yeah, and I feel like we should go and put that statue right there in each campus of the United States. Just as a reminder, like, this is what happens when you're trying to fight for your ideas and your opinions and try to express them.
And he shaped the debates on campus. He challenged young people. He challenged what they were being taught in classrooms.
He went overseas to challenge people in other countries.
He challenged the Marxist ideology. And if you get right down to it, that's what this is about with MSNBC. They disagree with his ideology, and so they want to shut down and cancel. It's a form of cancellation.
Yeah, but of course, they don't want that to get spread in the citizens, you know, because they'll be like, well, we don't want to make this guy a martyr, you know, because.
But again, he challenged, he provoked thought, he changed minds, he helped drive the red wave in 2024. Arguably, Donald Trump said he probably has much to do with his election in 2024 as anyone else, because he brought young people on board. And not only politically, but he got them engaged in the process. He got them talking about this.
I have to be honest with you. I'm even thinking about start to doing the stuff he did on the weekends when he turned off his cell phone to dedicate to the family. Right. Because, you know, God says that on the scripture.
So here's my challenge to the boards of regents at the University of Kentucky, the University of Louisville, and every public campus in the Commonwealth: find a spot for a Charlie Kirk statue. Not because you agree with everything he said. Of course you don't. Not because he bled blue or ever tailgated in Lexington for a UK game, but do it for the same reason we honor others. Dr. King
he was a victim
in places he never visited, because he was a courageous, controversial American who stood for what he believed, spoke truth to power, even when the power was the campus left, and left an indelible mark on our nation. But perhaps the most important reason is that both Dr. King and Charlie Kirk were assassinated. They were shot dead in front of the entire nation and world because they dared to exercise the unique freedom that our Constitution gives to protect the rights of all who speak up and all who speak out. And even if I don't agree with what you say, I will defend to the death your right to say it. And then, if you're a left-wing lunatic, I will use my freedom of speech to come right back and do my very best to show you the error of your ways. That's what Charlie Kirk did. That's what Dr. King did. And that's will do for this edition of Kentucky's Voice. Thanks for speaking up and speaking out just like Charlie Kirk did.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for having me here. You don't know, you have no idea how much it means for Cubans having my voice here.
Well, it's important that we recognize those voices and those who've experienced the ravages of socialism and seen it firsthand. The young people of this country need to study their history. Socialism doesn't work. America is great. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You're great too. Thanks for joining us.